Hello there. My name is Lavinia Osborne of Women in Blockchain Talks, and I'm very excited to be part of this panel for Black Tech Fest. So to all of you who are out there, here's to a happy and wonderful Black History Month. I'm here with Sean Musaka and Yves Messi, and we're going to be discussing if the Black community has missed out on the crypto run that is happening now and has been happening over the last couple of years. So what's your answer, Sean? Have they missed out? Has the Black community missed out?
Thanks a lot, Lavinia. Just to take a quick step back, as Lavinia highlighted, my name is Sean Masuka. I work as a lawyer in the city in London at Latham & Watkins. My area is finance, and also we represent a lot of crypto firms. And the various, as you can imagine, crypto is such a new area. There is a lot of regulatory activity. So we kind of get to deal with those questions, and that's been my exposure to the space. And before I jump into the question, Yves, do you want to jump in?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Yves Messi, and I'm an enterprise blockchain architect at R3. I also am a blockchain mentor at F10 incubator in Zurich, and a number of other venture building institutions. Generally speaking, I focus on realizing capital market infrastructure projects from a technology end, and then from a business architecture end all over Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Great. So I think to answer the question, has the Black community missed the blockchain wave? For me, I think the answer is it's a simple yes. When you look at the participants within the space, you see that it is definitely the overrepresentation is white and male. And so there isn't much participation in terms of people of color in the space. In fact, this is the most number of Black people I've ever seen speaking to each other about blockchain in a public space. So the answer to that is unequivocally yes. I don't know about you guys.
So I think I have a bit of a different approach here. On the one end, you're correct. I mean, I lecture on blockchain at some universities in Germany, Switzerland, and here in the UK. And yes, the room is usually overwhelmingly, obviously European, sort of white-looking. But it's not necessarily the same thing from the executive end. I think the most number of Black executives, successful executives in technology I know, are in the blockchain space. Institutions that you very well know, in the UK, for example. Tier 1 capital market institutions are doing a good job at selecting Black leaders increasingly, although there's a lot of work to do. So if anything, compared to a typical M&A, merger and acquisitions desk on any City of London desk, I think you'd have more representation on blockchain team from my personal experience.
Okay, that's a good
I would agree with both. I mean, I think generically, you're very correct, Sean, but this industry, I've seen more diversity than just straight tech or straight finance, especially, I would say, men of color, because, I represent diversity, but diversity from a gender point of view, as well as from a color point of view. I believe there's only one race. And so with that being said, I see a lot of successful Black male leading the way in blockchain technology in regards to business and crypto, but not so much women of color leading the way.
Okay.
With that being said, I'm part, because you just mentioned how this is the most people of color that you've seen talking about blockchain. So I'm very much community orientated, and one of the communities I belong to is women of color in blockchain. And so that's a community of over 500 women across the world. Wow. So, but we're not at, say, executive level. So, yeah.
Okay, so that's...
If I can just jump in, I mean, I would actually echo what you're saying, Lavinia. That's true. I mean, from a Canadian, being originally Canadian and exposed to the US as well, I have to say that there is that distinct lack of Black executives leading technology teams. I don't know if this is a blockchain problem specifically, or just generally speaking, a trend that everyone has noticed and is working really hard on fixing. But I would almost argue that in blockchain, there's a lot more room for female leadership being expressed to then take a position of leadership than in any other sector, because it's so new and everything is so off the ground. But that's just my personal opinion.
And I guess and you know what, given what you guys have said, that you've seen more representation within blockchain than say in traditional finance, I I can entertain that just because obviously traditional finance, the channels into it are very fixed. You know, you have to go to a certain type of school, you have to know a certain type of people to get access to those opportunities. Whereas, as Eve says, blockchain is something that's new. And so, and you know, by nature, right, it was designed to be open and more inclusive. So as a result, Black people are getting more opportunities to get through there. But just to go back to my earlier point, I guess the way I was seeing it was from the user perspective. So, you know, let's say you were to go to your, take all of the crypto users in the world, right? And then break out the demographics of that. What percentage of those are Black, right? And that's where I would have thought we were missing it.
I would say percentage-wise, yes, again, you're right. But I also do believe that the African continent has really taken off with crypto. It's taken off for a number of reasons. The underbanked, unbanked element is one reason why crypto is really taken off. So, and of course, you know, Africa is the biggest continent in the world. So with the majority of people, especially in Nigeria and Ghana and Kenya, I would say there's mass adoption across the board there. But outside of Africa, you're looking at UK, maybe there's some in America, but UK, America, I still speak to so many people, they don't know what blockchain is. They only, if they know anything about crypto, it's Bitcoin. And then in the Americas, I'm talking about Canada, not Canada, the Caribbeans, which is my origin. What I'm seeing is that people are interested, but they don't have a route to access. So
if I can just jump in here, I think one of the key, most powerful, and at least most respected entities in the blockchain space lately is a company called BITT, for example. And this is a Caribbean initiative as well. You know, the Marshall Islands mentioned a sovereign central bank digital currency that they've been trialing for a number of months now. And in Davos this year at the World Economic Forum, the Prime Minister of the Marshall Islands and a few other ones in the Caribbean area were actually very present from what I've seen. So I think it's a context where, yes, on the top level, a lot of announcements are being made, but at the grassroots level, how can we educate more people of minority background on how to use the tools, how to invent them, even to know what's going on, because the average student who's a minority is not necessarily encouraged to think about breakthrough technologies unless it's part of a specific career week or something. I think we need to raise that amount of effort. And I'm lecturing in a number of universities now to make sure I can lecture to everyone and also specifically encourage any minority that I come across to take a good look.
Okay. And to piggyback, I just wanted to piggyback on Lavinia's Africa comment, because I think for me personally, that's where when I think about blockchain and Black people, I think that's where the most explosive impact is going to be found. The reason being, right, within Africa, as Lavinia touched on, you know, there's a big issue with access to traditional financial services that we in the developed world take for granted, right? That legacy system of, you know, your parents go and open a bank account for you in your teenage years or whatever, that legacy system never really caught on, similar to the way, you know, you didn't have telephone lines late in Africa. Everyone just jumped to the cell phone. And because blockchain has this capacity to create, you know, if you believe in the theories, right, it is going to be the successor financial system. And there's an opportunity on the African front where that legacy system hasn't really developed to just go in and for them to slide right into the next one. What always troubles me is, you know, you have places like in places like Zimbabwe, where someone in a rural area, they're just trapped in that economy. They can't, if they don't have a bank account, they don't have enough money to have a bank account. And then you know, they can't interact with anyone outside of their country, right? So that person's whole life, the only economy that they have access to is the economy of Zimbabwe, and maybe even the economy in their regional area, because they're not transacting with anyone in the cities directly. So you can just imagine the benefits that can flow once we plug all those people into that system.
Sean, I think if I can add to what you're saying, the nice thing about being in my position where we realize these opportunities, building payments infrastructure, building capital markets infrastructure, is that I'm actually working on I can't talk about it in detail at the moment, but linking a number of African countries with the Euro area in terms of payments and cross-border payments and things like that, for example. That alone, the average international cross-border payment has 14 to 24 intermediaries before person A sends money to person B and receives it.
Do you want to maybe give us a bit more background on that use? Just break it down a bit more simply, because everyone may not be as familiar with it.
Of course, yes. Well, I mean,
how an international payment happens from like Zimbabwe to Nigeria.
Oh dear, we have 1 minute, don't we? So generally speaking, there are a lot of banks in different countries. It goes from bank to bank to bank to bank, across regions, and then it gets to a final destination, be it in, person B could be in Europe, person A could be in Kenya. This is how it's traditionally worked, and they made it very fast, but you still have so many people involved, and that adds to the notorious 17% that Western Union, for example, as a company, taxes on anyone who wants to send money abroad or to send it back home. So blockchain is actually eliminating these intermediaries and putting person A and person B on a peer-to-peer basis. This is why blockchain is so exciting. This is why Bitcoin excites some people, but blockchain excites others who actually want to use the technology behind the cryptocurrency and build robust, future-ready financial infrastructure. So access to finance when it comes to blockchain is going to come through better payment solutions, faster, cheaper banks, and just generally speaking, more being possible in African and just generally minority-focused consumer areas like purchasing something from Amazon and getting pre-qualified and getting instantly loaned money circulated extremely fast using artificial intelligence and blockchain at the same time. These are visionary aspects, of course, but we're talking about missing a wave. I think Africa, and I think the Black community generally speaking, is just becoming aware of how much is possible. And the first wave of Bitcoin was, a bit of a confusing one when people thought about the price. But I think with the price movements that we've seen, people have focused on where to actually put this to use for good and put it to use to actually build infrastructure that everyday people who don't know about technology use. So I think we need to educate, and then we need to train people to then build better technologies and contextualize it for Africa, for minority communities. That's generally the main point I'm having here. We need to educate to change this trend. But we also need to educate, to train people to customize it to maybe the financial inclusion theme and realize some seriously disruptive and transformative solutions.
Well, I'm part of the Caribbean Alliance, Blockchain Alliance, and that's one of our key objectives, to educate. Because, with COVID, especially, the tourist industry has been wiped out, in the Caribbean. So, young people don't want to go back to agriculture. They don't want to farm the land. They don't want to do dead-end jobs. And so technology is the key forward, and particularly blockchain for me. And with that being said, Coursera, which is an online course, it's providing courses to the governments in the Caribbean to share with their young people so that they can start learning and having an understanding of the technology and the opportunities that come with the technology that are out there. So there are movements, and I'm really pleased to see it and to be able to advocate and share those opportunities in what I think.
Lavinia, that's excellent to hear. You mentioned Coursera and all that. There were so many online resources. I mean, how I got started into blockchain was accidentally stumbling upon the wrong YouTube video a few years ago, almost a decade. So there's a lot of content there. Maybe we should put it in front of these communities that we're focusing on.
Exactly.
And in addition to that, then, I think I really want to focus on what blockchain changes, what crypto and blockchain changes for career aspirations in minority communities. Because right now, parents who are well-meaning could encourage people to want to be maybe a banker. But being a banker is very different. Oh, a lawyer, Sean did very well here. But being a lawyer in the 21st century with these technology disruptions doesn't mean the same thing as being a lawyer or a banker 10, 20 years ago. So we're looking at new fields that have never existed and that are becoming standard faster. How can we get people in minority communities to be agile, to get that fresh content quickly? I think that's one of the work that has to be done, to educate people about fintech, not finance, insurtech, not insurance, legal tech, not law necessarily. It can mean very different things.
And I would say, and just to add a bit of context to that, I work, Yves keeps throwing around capital markets as an area that's going to be impacted by blockchain. That's an area that I work in as well. And, to give a bit of background, that's just where companies come in to raise money, either by selling a piece of themselves or by borrowing some money. And, right now, those processes, the rules that those processes work on were rules that were written. So I practice American law, and those rules were written in 1933. And what's happened now with blockchain coming up is they're trying to force those 1933 rules onto blockchain and onto the crypto. And in fact, what's sort of interesting about what Yves does and what I do is if what they're doing over there, if it succeeds, then it's going to disrupt what we're doing big time, because we've been using these very old processes. And so the challenge for those traditional practitioners is to say, okay, this is what's coming. How do we adjust and get ready for the transformation? Because we've seen this technological transformation has happened across everything, and it's sensible to think that it's not going to happen to other things as well. So
I think Sean is right on the money here. This disruption from new type of infrastructure is creating new careers that are paying very well, that are offering longer term career aspirations that traditional job functions no longer have. And I think it's that gap, the next finance, that we need to educate younger or people ready to transition into the space to be aware that, look at legal tech, look at fintech, look at any other technology variant of traditional jobs, and create the next wave of change. I think the wave is still happening. We're just at the start, and I would love to see more minorities involved in building it. And I'm happy to see that personally. One of the blockchain leaders at one of the UK's top 2 financial institutions is actually a minority. It's actually African of background. That's really heartwarming to see. And there are more of us coming, I'm hoping. And if we can do anything on the panel here or after the show to educate anyone, it'd be such a pleasure to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if anyone has any questions, then please, do put them in the chat box, and we will do our best to answer them after the session.
You can also connect on LinkedIn as well, if you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, Twitter. Also, I'd just like to add, my platform, Women in Blockchain Talks, is very geared to education, because we talk about color, but there's diversity in that, as I touched upon at the beginning. And so the focus is on education, because if blockchain is the future of works, or is the future of money, it's also the future of works. So we talk about disruption on traditional careers, but it's a disruption on the way that we engage with money, full stop. And people need to understand that, or they will be left behind.
Absolutely.
That makes complete sense. And I think one aspect that we haven't touched on is disruption. Crypto is only relevant because of how disruptive it actually successfully has been, however adopted. I think we need more Black disruptors developing adopted, established solutions. And I think this would involve, the way I would see it, is backing more Black founders in the space. Generally speaking, actively identifying them, supporting them. Because obviously we all know on this panel that it's not the same thing being a Black founder, being another one that may have more privileged, just traditionally privileged of background. And these minority founders need special support and special attentive eyes and a friendly investor crowd. And that is how you get technology that looks like everyone. At the end of the day.
Okay, so in our final 2 minutes, running through everyone, has the black community mixed the blockchain wave? Final word.
I would say no. It's still happening.
And I would say yes to start, but the story is not over yet, so we can get in there and catch up. Good.
I think there's different contexts. So yes, on a big picture, but no, in different contexts, I would say. But like you said, there's so much growth. So
we're just at the beginning. And really, if you look at it in the big picture view, everyone, even the amount of people involved versus the amount of people in the world, there's still so much growth to come.
Exactly. And I'm so excited for it. So
Me too. It's been great chatting with you guys about this.
Excellent. Complete pleasure. And again, if there's any way we can help on the panel here later, anyone in the audience listening, we'd be more than happy to help empower Black founders in the space, educate Black students, and just talk to Black communities about what's happening here.
Yes, definitely. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.